Welcome to Roadside Notes. I'm Christopher, the Route 66 chaplain, and these are the readings from the Faith and Good Courage Journal found at faithandgoodcourage.com. Stories from and for the road, a little grace for the miles ahead, and reminders that hope still travels with us. This journal, the Centennial Seeker, is from my entry on August 20th, 2026. The Centennial Seeker found me before I found him. I was halfway through breakfast at one of my favorite Route 66 diners when I heard him ask the waitress a question about the towns along Arizona Route 66. The ones that should have been gone by now. The ones that had every reason to dry up and blow away and somehow didn't. She listened politely, smiled, and then pointed right at me. "You need to talk to this man," she said. So he pulled up a chair, and we got to talking, and by the time the coffee had been refilled twice, I understood that Pete was from Kentucky, but he really wasn't asking about the towns at all. He was asking about himself. I've started calling them Centennial Seekers. The ones showed up on Route 66 this year because something about the 100 years of this highway made them feel like they, finally had time. They came from everywhere. They came for every reason. Pete came from 22 years of 60-hour work weeks and a morning where he finally looked up from work long enough to realize he couldn't remember the last time he had done something just because he wanted to. He didn't ease into it, didn't plan a sabbatical or negotiate a leave of absence or map out a careful transition. He just stopped, handed in his notice, packed what fit in the car, and pointed it west the way men had been doing since before the road was even here to follow. "Go west, young man," he laughed when he said it, the kind of laugh that had some sadness in it, but not too much, just enough to be honest. The 10-year relationship was over, the house went with it, 44 years old and starting from a number that felt a lot more like zero. He said he woke up one morning and the weight of everything he had been carrying was heavier than the fear of letting go. So he let go. Kentucky to Oklahoma on the first leg, then where the road introduced itself properly. 2 flat tires before he did hit the state line, a water pump that gave out somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, where the nearest town was 20 miles in either direction, and that cell signal, more like a suggestion than fact. He sat on the side of the road in the heat and waited and, thought about turning back. Then he thought about what he would be turning back to. He called a tow truck and waited a little bit more. Patience, he told me, was not something he came with. It was something the road was instilling inside of him, one breakdown at a time. By the time he hit Arizona, he had a cracked windshield courtesy of a truck outside of Holbrook on I-40. He said he watched it happen in slow motion. The rock, the spider web spreading across the glass, and the trucker, he didn't even know. He drove the rest of the way to Flagstaff looking at the road through a crack and thinking about how you don't always get to choose what breaks. You just choose whether you keep driving. That's when he asked me about the towns. He had been passing through them since Oklahoma, the one the maps barely acknowledge anymore. The ones where the gas station closed, the diner is hanging on, and the post office is the social center of the community that everyone said was finished 20 years ago. He wanted to know how they survived, what kept them going when every reasonable indicator said they should have been done by now. So I told him I had a podcast, Arizona Route 66, the podcast, and the episodes I've done on exactly that topic. The towns that refuse to die. Hackberry, Peach Springs, Lingman, each one had a moment where it could have folded and chose not to. Not dramatically, just quietly. One resident who stayed. One business that opened that, probably shouldn't have. One stubborn refusal to let the bypass have the last word. Pete got quiet when I said that. Then he said that sounded exactly what he was trying to do. He told me about Flagstaff almost as an afterthought. said he had stopped for gas where he saw a woman sitting outside the station with a cardboard sign and nothing much else. He had almost driven past. He said the old version of him definitely would have. 60-hour weeks don't leave a lot of margin for noticing people on corners. But he had time now, and that was the whole point of the trip. So he pulled over, bought 2 breakfast sandwiches from inside, and sat on the curb next to her for 20 minutes and ate breakfast and didn't ask her story and didn't offer her any advice and didn't even try to fix anything. Just sat there. 2 people eating breakfast in the morning sun outside a gas station in Flagstaff. He said it was the best 20 minutes of his whole trip. I told him that sounded like a man who was figuring out what he was actually made of now, then that 60-hour weeks weren't filling up in that space. He smiled at that, said maybe the breakdown in Oklahoma was the best thing that happened to him because it forced him to sit long enough to start paying attention. The towns that refused to die didn't survive because everything went right. They survived because the people in them learned to sit through the hard parts long enough to find out that it was still worth saving. Pete from Kentucky was doing the same thing. 1 mile at a time, 1 cracked windshield at a time, and 1 breakfast on a curb at a time. In my roadside reflection, this Centennial Seeker didn't come to Route 66 for nostalgia. He came because 22 years of 60-hour work weeks had finally run out of road, and something in him knew it was time to find a different one. The highway gave him flat tires, broken water pump, and a cracked windshield, and even a homeless woman eating breakfast on a curb in Flagstaff. It gave him patience he didn't pack, and perspective he couldn't have brought. That's what the Mother Road does in its 100th year, the same as it did in its first. It meets you where you are. It breaks what needs breaking, and it keeps going long enough for you to figure out that you can too. If you're carrying something heavy right now, if the weight of where you've been is starting to outweigh the fear of somewhere new, maybe it's time to point the car west. The road will take care of the rest. It always has. Travel well, my friends. Have faith and good courage.